All right. Welcome to season 2, episode 2 of the brand new and pretty professional looking Mets way. You got your co-host and eternal optimist, Jared Levison. Down at the bottom of the screen, we have New Hampshire's only Met fan, the president of the Jeff McNeil fan club, and now the new president of the James McCann fan club, Josh Shaw, and Skip Bayless wannabe, Jimmy Nolan. And welcome, guys. I'm happy to be here and looking forward to another great show. How's everyone doing?
Tough day. The Queen died, so real tragic moment here in the States.
Should we do a moment of silence?
I'm with it.
She was a huge Mets fan. She had her Keith Hernandez jersey on when she passed, so.
Keith, and then she had the hat on too. She had a little Mr. Met tucked in under her arm.
Yeah, her earrings were actually logos of the Mets, kind of like how Lindor has that necklace. That's what I read from The Guardian. So
yeah, she actually had her hair dyed just like
blue and orange.
Nah, but in all seriousness, I guess rest in peace. I always thought it was a little interesting to think about, how the Americans care so much about the Queen and whatnot, but that's a topic for another day. But
I was talking with can we just
we can keep going.
I was talking about it with my mom very briefly. She's like, "Yeah, Harry's a traitor. Good thing he's in England now to see her gone." And I was like, "What? Like, what do we? Who cares? Like, why are we talking about this as if it's like the Kardashians? They basically are.
They're like the oldest Kardashians.
I know they suck.
Anyway, the Mets have had a very up and down. At least Met fans have had a very up and down couple of days. The Braves tied our division lead. So it's the first time we weren't leading since when? April? I don't know the exact date.
Opening day?
Pretty much opening day. And, we got drummed by the Pirates. We got drummed by the Nats. And then yesterday in a doubleheader, we did what we always do in doubleheaders, and we kick ass. So hopefully that eased some nerves. How are you guys feeling right now?
I'm optimistic still. I think Salicata on Twitter the other day, he posted a really good tweet. I know some Mets fans are, I have mixed emotions about Sal too, but I think he said it best. I think this Mets team, they deserve some leeway. And, you got to remember, we're still on pace for 100 wins. So are the Braves. And I think as much as I do want to, let's say, panic, I'm not going to because, the Braves, they beat up on almost every single team since they've turned it around this season. But the one team they've struggled against is the Mets. Luckily, we still have an easy schedule left. I think it was just a little 3-game blur, there. Or, I don't know what was going on with the Mets during that little streak that they had. But, it happens. You said it even in the chat. Good teams lose to bad teams sometimes. It's okay. And, the Braves, they are right there. And yes, I like me, myself, I'm a little worried that the Braves are right there and they definitely could take this division from us. But I'm still confident that the Mets are the better team than the Atlanta Braves at the end of the day. And, I think they're going to finish the season strong, and I think they're going to get the job done.
I'm of two minds where, when the National Series was happening, I was like, oh, it's over. It's over. We're going to lose every game from here on out. It's going to be really bad. I'm going to get mocked endlessly for months. The Mets are going to lose in the wild card game because that's just where you are as a doomer. And I'm free to admit, it's who I am. I'm going to embrace the doomer lifestyle, okay? Because guess what? It's got me this far. 85 wins, all right?
Yeah, and you're at the second dude from being that doomer mentality, man.
Well, that could also be genetics, Jared, but leave my thinning hairline aside. But what troubled me the most throughout this last week wasn't just the results of the lackluster offense. It was just the process. Early in the seasons, Buck always talked about it's not about scoring 10 runs in an inning to win the inning. It's about working the count. It's about making a pitcher get the throw, see what he's got, see what's working, see what's not. The Mets didn't do that this last week. I thought they really, really failed in that regard. Corbin threw 85 pitches in 7 innings, and 11 of the pitches were the most he threw in a single inning. The day after that, Eric Fedde threw 101 in 6 innings, but entering the 6th, he'd only thrown 80, so that's a little inflated. And then the series opener against Pittsburgh, Mcgill threw 106 innings. So the process has been kind of good these last 2 days, especially in the doubleheader, but I do think there is concern because this isn't the first time we've seen this problem where the Mets just go, hey, let's get aggressive. And that's fine, but the only person who ends up bruised is the Mets. That's a little bit of a problem for me. I think they can get back to that mindset, and it's obviously what worked for them at one point, but I'm a little dubious and a little concerned about this new style that they're kind of employing of just like, we're going to swing at everything. It's like, no, don't, please.
So obviously, very well taken. I mean, we've seen a bunch, and especially with Pete, he's been slumping, and he's just reaching for stuff outside the strike zone. He's not waiting on pitches like he normally would. Do you think maybe that series against the Nats, that series against Pittsburgh, at least that first game against Pittsburgh, was a little bit of like a Dodgers series hangover? Because we talked about it last show. Like, there's no reason to panic. Like, we literally just beat the Dodgers in a series. We're 4-3 against them on the year. Do you think that, you know, we were just like a little bit of a hangover, and the season is a bunch of ebbs and flows. And we got the series with the Marlins coming up, a huge divisional series. I don't know. I'm just trying to think, like, this team seems to always find a way to get back into their groove and find what they're, you know, the resiliency of this team it's unmatched, and I haven't seen anything like it.
In a lot of ways, they're like you're like in school, right? You got a big test and you got a quiz the next day, and the Dodgers were the test, and you're like, yo, I'm grinding for this test. I don't care what it takes, sleep, coffee, whatever it is. I want to get this test right because I need it to be right. And that's what the Mets did with the Dodgers. But on the other hand, they left themselves open for the quiz. And that was, you know, the Nationals. But I do want to say real quick before we start panicking about the Nationals or just like commenting further, the Nationals aren't a bad team as of late. In late July, they split a series with San Diego, split another Seattle. They now split a series with the Cardinals this week. I'm not going to sit here and not say it's not disappointing what happened, but I do think we should maybe give them a little more respect than just being like, oh, the Trashtionals or whatever, something, you know, like that. But they're a lot better than the record would indicate as of now, even though Keibert Ruiz just went to the hospital with swollen testicles. But
What?
he took a foul ball and he's at the hospital with swollen testicles.
Oh
my Lord.
We talked about him. We talked about him a lot on the show. That's messed up because he's a really good player.
Yeah, he's great. But I saw that in the news before we got on the air, and I was like, I want to bring that up.
I'm surprised that hasn't happened to any of our players yet by the number of times.
Well, never James McCann, but, you know.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
but I just want to say, like, before we get further into that, the Nationals are better than we give them credit for as of late.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the Nationals. They're a good team, but at the same time, I do want to see the Mets beat them. But you know, I gotta give Jerry that. Like, you're right. It definitely had to be a Dodgers hangover, and I like the analogy with the test and the quiz. So I'm not really worried, but it's just I'm also worried because the Braves are so good. You know, I don't want to have us slip games like that anymore the rest of the season because I think with the games against the Nationals and the Pirates, those losses, I think the Mets they like I just said, you know, they can't have those the rest of the season. The division lead is only a half game right now. I think, you know, besides the Braves series, you know, they need to beat up on these bad teams. They need to beat up on the Marlins this week. You know, if, you know, I think what is a 4-game series, they need to at least take 3 out of 4 because the Braves, they're not going anywhere. And, you know, as much as I want to say that we're going to go in there and stomp them in that 3-game series coming up, you know, it's not a guarantee. You know, we've seen the Braves, what they could do to us too. You know, we beat them up in the 5-game series, but they also beat up on us. So I want to see this team start to pick it up a little bit more now, but at the same time, they do deserve a little bit of leeway, and I am confident that they are going to do it.
This kind of makes me think about kind of what we're talking about the NL East race right now. A stellar debut and that. Oh, what's going on now?
Yep.
Booyah?
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
I think he's frozen.
My boy's got Mr. Freezed.
Oh.
Maybe that
Hello?
helped.
Oh, all right. I think we're back. All right.
This is the problem with live video.
Honestly, it's bound to happen.
Yeah, live has its drawbacks.
All right, we'll ride with it. But anyway, Bassett was saying, I believe he said after the game, Steve Gelbs was asking him about, dropping games, losing that first one to Pittsburgh. Like, how does it feel right now to kind of go in there and have the performance you did and help your team win today? And Bassett pretty much said, like, I don't know, the media kind of overreacts the way they will, and we're fine. And, we won the game today, and, we're okay. How did you guys initially react to those post-game comments from Bassett? How's it sat with you now? Because, I know James, well, I'll just let James go into what he wanted to say.
Originally at first, like, I do like the confidence. I love the confidence, but I feel like he could have been taking it a step further and being more confident and saying, like, yeah, we know that the Braves are right here, but, we're the better team. We're good. And he kind of did say that, but I just wish he acknowledged that, that loss meant the Braves are now, they have a chance to tie the NL East. And they did just that later on that night. It was a dogfight with the A's that game, but they ended up getting the job done. And, I just wish he acknowledged it. That at the end of the day, I just wish Bassett, said that, we know that the Braves are right there. Because if I heard that, then I would have been more confident as a fan, because then I would have known that, Bassett knows that, the same thing as me. He's thinking the same thing, that, the Braves are right there, and we do got to pick things up, and we got to finish the season strong, and we can't lack off. But, he ultimately did say that, kind of. I just wish that he acknowledged that the Braves were right there.
I'm perfectly fine with what he said, honestly, because, like, the second you start worrying about anyone else in your life, or just another team in your standings, you're not focused on the task at hand anymore. You're focused on the other team behind you. So for him to be, and I get where you're coming from, Jimmy, but, like, if he says we're the better team and then the Mets don't win the NL East, what's the number thing in the New York newspaper? For no other reason than him trying to be honest or giving his opinion. And that's fair. And I'm no begrudge him, or I don't feel like, if he said it, I wouldn't be like, wow, that's weird. But it would be like, oh, don't give them more cannon fodder than they need. And it's just like, I don't know, like, if you're a fan, be a doomer. It's okay. Like, is it make things less fun? Of course. But at the end of the day, you're going to wake up, you're going to go to bed, and you're going to go do whatever you got to do that day, and you'll be fine. Hopefully. I mean, if your life is literally over if the Mets lose to the Pirates on, like, a Tuesday night, I'm sorry, because I don't know how you do that. But if you're a player and you're in that clubhouse, you can't focus on that. You got to have confidence in who you are and what this team has done. And they have shown that reason to be confident. So I'm more okay with what Bassett said. And I wish he'd just been like, yeah, we're going to go to the park, get our job done, go home, and then do it all over again. That's all we have to do.
And that's actually exactly what he did say. And a further quote, it's just a win today, and that's it. I understand the standings and how well the Braves are playing, but we can only control what we can, do everything smart, and worry about us, and that's it. And this team's really been preaching that the whole season. I love the consistency that this team has and, like, their approach and their message. Remember when they dropped, like, 2 or 3 games a couple months ago? It's kind of said something similar, like around the same lines. And I don't know, for all you doomers out there and people that abandoned this team from that 3-game losing streak, like, what are you doing, man? Like, you're gonna leave at the best time. If any time you want the Mets to slump, I feel like it'd be right now. I'd rather do it now than in the NLCS or the wild card round. I don't know.
And it's kind of fun. Like, I'm not by no means do I want the Atlanta Braves to make it a hard fight for the Mets, but it's fun to see these games. Like when the Mets play the Braves, those games are going to mean something. Like, it's not like, I mean, I would say when the Yankees had their big division lead, they're not playing meaningless games, but now they're playing pretty meaningless games now with their division lead slimming down. But, these games for the Mets, they matter. And I think as a Mets fan, it just makes it fun to watch, because tonight against the Miami Marlins, it's a game that necessarily, it's the Marlins, they're a bad team. The Mets are one of the best teams in baseball. They should smoke them. But no, it's like, the Braves right there. The Mets need to win this game against the Marlins, and tomorrow's the same thing. So as a fan, it's kind of fun, as much as I don't want the Braves to win, obviously, but it's a fun watch to see that there's a race. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
I have a question real quick.
Shoot.
To you guys, do you need to win the NL East this year? Is that like, if we don't do that, this season's a total like failure? Because I'm curious on this.
No, but yeah, no.
Like,
I don't know. They can still get it done. Like,
as long as we're in the playoffs, anything can happen. But for how long of a lead that we had, and for it to really come, it's really all going to come down to that last series. Hopefully it doesn't have to, but the way the Braves are playing, their schedule is, just because we're the Mets. See a little bit of doomers in there, Josh. So, I'm not totally eternal optimist, but I mean, we earned for how we played for pretty much the whole season. We earned that bye. Having that bye would be great because I think the wild card too. We'd have the higher seed, obviously, but if we weren't, I think it's 3 games, and they're all in one stadium. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yes.
It's not a home and away. That's not really an issue we'd have, but I don't know, just the fact that we could give guys like Max Scherzer a little bit of rest. We're an old team too. Maybe Marte isn't like fully back, and having those 3 days to recover that. It was like a partially his injury, whatever his hand injury was. Having a bye would be nice. So I would be a little disappointed if we didn't win the division, but don't get greedy. I'd just be happy that we're in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think you kind of saw it too with the 5-game series that the Mets dominated the Braves. We were at home. So that home field advantage, it matters. And, ultimately, I'm not going to be too upset. Like, I'm going to be upset a little bit if the Mets lose the division to the Braves, but I'm not going to be like, oh, season's over because, at the end of the day, like Jared just said, we can still get the job done. We're in the playoffs. Anything can happen. When you have Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer at the top of your rotation, I'd be confident going into a 3-game series. And I think the Braves even too, like the Mets and the Braves, they're 2 of the best teams in baseball. They're both on pace for 100 wins. I think Mets fans realize that, but I think a lot of people outside the Mets world need to realize that. And, I think the division, it's just, I want it. Because like Jared said, we've had it for so long. And it would be a little bit of a letdown. But, it wouldn't mean the season's over, but it definitely would be a letdown.
I'm torn because I agree with everything you guys kind of said of like, I would love the bye. I'd love everything else. But if the Mets don't win the NL East this year, I'm at least okay with it in the regards of like what the Braves has done is nothing short of spectacular. To go and put the streak they've done and go, 60-20 over the last 80, there's no fault and there's no shame in losing like that. And my only thing I would want, if it is going to happen, which there's no way to know it, I'm not going to predict it, is that the Mets at least keep it down to the wire. The last thing I want to see is us get to that last week and be like, well, it's the Braves. That would be a killer to me because that means the Mets just crapped out, for lack of a better word. But if we get to, late September and it's like, hey, man, the Braves took it by a win, it's not the end of the world because the wild card, I mean, I don't know if the listeners remember, but it's 3 games this year. It's not just 1. So there's this fact of like, it's not just 1. In any baseball game, anything could happen. It's not that anymore. You now have to win 2 games to move on. And like Jared or Jimmy was saying, I don't feel any fear if it's DeGrom and Scherzer back-to-back or DeGrom and Bassett need be. That is great to me. I will take that gamble every single time. And I almost kind of like it in a way because I don't want the Mets to get a bye and then come out flat or something like that. Not that I'm worried about it, but there is that risk of like, hey, they sat on their hands for a couple of days, came out maybe a little less amped than they could have been. And I don't know. Like, it's not the end of the world to me if it happens, but I would like to see it because I want to put that banner up. I want to shut the Braves up. And I want Sal Licata to apologize and then be like, you know what, it's over now, but I want to apologize for being premature about it.
Dude, Sal has been getting ripped by the Atlanta media. I don't know if you guys...
As he should.
Because he said on one of the baseball shows, he was like, the NL East is New York's, like, it's already over. And then...
In what, like April or like June?
Over the last series they had where the Mets, like, I think it might have been that 5-gamer or whatever the last one was in Atlanta.
No, because it was when they took the 10.5 game lead, I think.
Maybe. It could have been older. But still,
But either way, yeah.
on this,
And then the Braves turn into basically the Braves.
yeah, just like the '90s Braves, minus Maddox and Glavine and all that. All right, 6:50. I think it's about time we move to some news, and there's a lot of news, especially a lot of injury news, some good and some bad. We'll start with the bad and we'll end with the good. The bad news: Max Scherzer went to the IL, and I know we all woke up that morning and kind of just silent screamed looking at our phones, seeing that Max Scherzer, one of our two aces, is out, but only for a couple days. I don't know. I guarantee you guys had the same, reaction as I did. But if anything, I think it seems precautionary. And if he needs, he's old. If he needs it, let's not take any risks or chances. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think the same thing. It was just soreness. He wanted to come out of the game. And actually, Mike Puma, a little bit before Anthony DiComo and before Anthony DiComo broke the news that Scherzer is going to the IL, Mike Puma tweeted that Scherzer and the Mets are planning on skipping his next start and maybe the next one after that, and then he would be okay to go, right after that. So I think they put him on the IL, not necessarily because he needs to go to the IL. I think it's more just, they're opening up a roster spot. They're giving, now I know that the September call-ups are coming up, but, just having another roster spot opens up, and it gives him a chance also to get better. So I like the idea. If you're going to skip his next two starts anyway, it makes sense. Why not? I know maybe in the middle of the season, if you're going to skip one or two starts, maybe keep him on the roster and don't send him to the IL. But I think since it's so late in the season, it just, why not? Give him the break. He deserves it, especially, we're going to need him. Give him the rest. I like it. And, we got guys that can fill in. We were talking about David Peterson last week. We were talking about that 6-man rotation. It's not the end of the world. We still got another ace in DeGrom. Bassett has been unbelievable his last couple starts. So I'm not worried with Scherzer going out. It would be nice to have him, but he'll be back. So
I'm nervous. I got to be honest with you guys, because when he first went out, it was like, but this is my Buck Showalter. He's like, yeah, we think Max going to come back next start. And I was like, all right, cool. We're not going to miss anything. That's great. And then it was like, I don't know. And now it's Ielston. And I think it is probably, in all honesty, just a break. I think it is. He's tired. He's sore. He hasn't pitched as well as he did when he first came back from the IL. Let him skip a start before we get to the really important games in September. But I'm a little nervous that it went from he's fine to he needs an IL stint. There's some, if he was truly fine, it wouldn't just be he's just tired. We're just going to give him a day off. He's just a start or two. It's got to be something a little bit more than that to me than just it's just fatigue. Because there's such a disconnect between the two reactions immediately. And it wasn't like Buck said this right after the game and it was glass half full. That was a day before he went on the IL. So I think he'll be fine in the long run. But I would like some transparency here. And maybe Buck can't fully just come out and say we're just having to skip a start or two. But it'd be nice because there is just weirdness around it.
I would say, he was injured for 30 days earlier in the season. I mean, it's definitely nervous, especially just because we finally have, the Scherzer DeGrom 1-2 punch, and somehow it still hasn't been exactly what we thought it was going to be. It's getting there, but it's still not as dominant or as consistent as I think we all thought it would be. But no, we'll see. And then some other bad news that could have been a lot worse. Starling Marte is listed day to day, I'll say off the injured list, after getting drilled in the hand by the Pirates, his former team. I believe it was the second at bat of the game in the first inning that he got drilled. Mm-hmm. And if we lose Starling Marte, I don't know what, Pete in the 2-hole was good, but the things that Starling has done for this team this year, I think are really invaluable. And he's a sneaky MVP for this team. I know my heart dropped when he got hit. Just happy that he's able to, he'll be back hopefully soon. But again, he could take his time. He's too valuable to this team.
If Pittsburgh hurt Marte, I'm going to do worse to them than what Bane did in The Dark Knight Rises. All right. I, like,
The whole
like,
field, the bomb.
yeah, I mean, it won't be that in PNC because like no one would get hurt, thankfully, because they have no fans. But it is just like, come on, like this is the only thing that is just like, oh, new owner, new manager, new vibe, and it's like, nope, not this. And just like this, we can swear now, right? All right, the shit luck, guys, of just like, hey, you guys gonna get hit more than any other team in the league, and it's probably not that close. Awesome. That's fucking great. Like, I feel unleashed now. I could do it if I need to, but like, it's like every time it happens, I have to hold my breath every time someone comes to the plate. I'm like, well, hopefully their season doesn't end today because this guy wants to pitch inside, but it's a possibility now because these guys just don't know what they're doing. And of course, it's the guys who always play the Mets. So I'm hopeful that worst case Marte can be back by the playoffs, but it's very, very aggravating that it's always this. And for once, I would love if Buck just went out there and got ejected for it because his little stare is great and it's awesome for the social media clips. But for once, I'd like to be like, this is some legit BS because it's always us.
Yeah, and it comes to a point. I think if another guy gets hurt, or you have to go out there and protect and defend your guys. And I think you said it best, Josh. Like Buck needs to be the guy to do that. And if it's not Buck, then it needs to be a leader on the team. It needs to be Lindor. It needs to be Alonso. It needs to be one of them needs to take a stand because it's kind of ridiculous that the Mets keep getting hit at this rate. You know, I thought it was gonna end at some point in the season, but it still hasn't. And for Marte to go down, and you know he's gonna be back, but you know for him to go down, and it could have been much worse. You know, everybody knows what a hand injury in baseball could do. It could ruin a player's season. We don't even know how he's going to be when he comes back now. So, you know, for Marte, you know, I'm definitely a little worried because he's been, I would say, the Mets' most consistent bat in the lineup throughout the whole entire season. You know, he really hasn't had a bad streak. You know, he's just been between 290 and 310 all year. You know, he's been ultimately, I would say, yeah, he's just been the Mets' most consistent hitter. And he adds such a nice element at the top of the lineup with Nimmo helping out. And, you know, him being in front of Lindor and Alonso, it really does help them. And I think he's been arguably, like you just said, Jared, arguably the Mets MVP this season. So, you know, it's definitely worrisome for me, but you know, I'm worried because I don't know how he's going to come back because it's a hand injury. And I think I'm confident that he'll come back strong because it is Starling Marte, but you know, it is getting it is getting frustrating. And like Josh said, if it keeps happening, Buck's got to do something.
I'll do it. Just hire me. I'll go out there.
Crack some skulls and explode, man. I'm waiting for that moment too. But in some good news, Babe Ruth incarnate Luis Guillorme had a single as a DH Syracuse. He'll be back hopefully soon with a groin. He got placed on the IL with a groin strain a couple weeks back. We were really missing his defense and the depth that he provides. So it'll be very nice for him when he comes back pretty soon. Tyler McGill is also inching closer to joining the team, possibly in a bullpen role. He threw, retired all 9 batters in perfect inning, 7 strikeouts in the one appearance of Syracuse. I think Buck said that he wanted to see him do one more appearance and go back-to-back maybe before he brought him up. That was very encouraging to see. And then also Drew Smith is set to make a AAA rehab appearance on Saturday.
I forgot he existed. I'll be honest. I was looking at the rundown today, and I was like,
the year,
oh yeah, Drew Smith, huh? Look at that guy.
Yeah, he was part of the no hitter. People forget.
Well, I think everyone's gonna forget.
I didn't forget.
Like Tyler McGill, Edwin Diaz, Seth Lugo. Oh, who's that last? This is gonna be like a Jeopardy question. 10 years.
Joely too.
Oh God, I want to forget Joely every time he's out there, so that's my mistake. No, I mean this is all good news. Like for the most part, I think Guillorme coming back will be huge, but there is a bit of a question which we can kind of get to later. But what does that mean for Eduardo Escobar? TBD. McGill coming back will be great because I think the longer relief is the one area where the Mets are kind of lacking. They seem to be very reserved about when they deploy Trevor Williams, where they just know they need a spot start or Carrasco comes back, so we need Trevor Williams to go 4 or 5 innings deep. But they don't have a guy where it's like, man, our starter got shelled early. We can go to this guy, every 2 or 3 days if we have to. And Mcgill can fill that role. That'd be really, really nice. I don't think I'll have to fill that role very much because the Mets starting staff has been so good outside of, Walker and Carrasco as of late. But it's great to see him back. I think he's got plus stuff when he's here. I just don't know if he's as reliable as we kind of wished he was.
Yeah, I kind of really liked Tyler McGill and the idea of him coming out of the bullpen. I think he even said it. He was worrying about velocity a lot before he went down. And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing for a reliever to worry about velocity because he throws hard. He does throw the ball hard. He has a nasty slider when he's on. It's just, it looked like he got tired, and that's when he started to get shelled, and, then the injury happened and he went down. But I'm kind of really excited to see what this Mcgill out of the bullpen is going to be like because it's kind of a wild card. He started off his career as a professional baseball player as a reliever, and he did fairly well. So I'm kind of excited to see what Mcgill can bring to this team from the bullpen once he does get to the big leagues. So I'm excited. I'm actually really excited. And like Josh said, the Mets, it feels like, as much as they love Trevor Williams, it feels like they're being very cautious with where they put him. So I don't know. With Tyler McGill coming back, it adds a lot. He's just going to add a different element, I feel like, to the pen where he can just come out and he could just throw gas. He could go long. He could probably go 3 to 4 innings if you need him to every couple of days. Or he could come out of the pen and just give you 1 inning and just throw straight gas because he has the ability to do that. And I think, I think he's seriously a wild card for the Mets once he returns.
I know we were all really excited when he came back from injury, and then I think he had 2 games, then got injured again. So it's been really nice to see Tyler get out there because he really had a great start to the year. And he's just he's like 6'7", 6'8", throws the ball super hard. Like, he's a freak.
He's a tall man.
Yeah, he's going to be really good to have in this rotation again, and maybe coming out the bullpen with David Peterson. Who knows? Because we need that lefty reliever because Joelly's been so inconsistent. Them two are going to be really nice additions. And, maybe Drew Smith can find that early season form where he had like a sub-3 ERA or something.
Do you guys trust Drew Smith? I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but like every time he come to the bullpen, I was like, whoo, he actually did something okay. I just don't know if I'm at the point yet where I'm like, yes, Drew Smith, because Michael Givens has kind of found it a little bit here and there. He gives him hits a lot, but he's been pretty sturdy as of late. Lugo's found it, Ottavino, Diaz. Those are the 4 I really want to roll with, and I'm curious, who do you bump out of the bullpen if we're talking for playoffs for Drew Smith? Is it Tommy Hunter? I mean, I guess I'm fine with that, but
I'd rather have Drew Smith than Tommy Hunter. I don't know what it is. Tommy Hunter has not shown the stuff. And I know you guys you can't even argue with me on that. It's true. He always comes in, we're getting blown out, or he always gives up some runs, whatever. Drew Smith, definitely prior to the injury, was not performing well, but I mean, that first half season, you could notice an improvement from the year before. The short-haired Drew Smith, obviously, over long-haired Drew Smith, kind of like a Jacob deGrom thing. Like, once he cut his hair, once he Cy Youngs. I didn't mean to put them in the same sentence. I'm not trying to do that.
That's why James McCann never has long hair, by the way, because he just knows the hair gods smile down upon him.
All right, settle down over there. Settle down.
No.
I trust Drew. It's kind of hard. I mean, it really how Lugo, Ottavino have been performing recently is actually giving me a lot of confidence in them because they were a little shaky early on, but I think they kind of found their New York groove. Yeah,
nice one, by the way. I just wanted to kudos you.
Yeah, subtle. Yeah, I trust Drew. I'm a Drew Smith stan, so I'll rock with him.
Yeah, I like it. I'm going to be excited for him to come back. I don't know. Tommy Hunter, though, he's been okay, but, he hasn't done it long enough.
No, he hasn't. Come on.
I mean, dude, he's got 18 innings of solid work. I mean, like Jared said, though, it's been in meaningless innings, though. So
I mean, yeah, it's 18 innings of oh, yes, he appeared.
Drew Smith deserves the roster spot more than Tommy Hunter.
Yes. I will walk down from my whole point, but yeah.
Yeah. I think, but also I think just staying on the bullpen part, I love the way that this bullpen is starting to come together now, especially with Seth Lugo. Like, I remember when we first started on that stupid app, we were like always talking
Okay,
about.
let's not.
But I just like, we were talking about Lugo and we were like worried, and we're like, dude, if Lugo can find it, this Mets bullpen is really going to turn it around. And props to him. His ERA is at like 2.96 right now, I think. So, Seth Lugo, I'm so happy to see him pitch like the old Seth Lugo.
I'm scared about the bullpen for one reason. It's Buck. I think Buck has been really brutal with the bullpen as of late. I was texting you guys this, but when he brought Montes de Oca out for a second inning, I was like, what on earth is he doing? Like, the second he almost hit the first batter twice in the at-bat, someone should have been up at the pen at the very least. But it took for a run across the plate, and I love Buck, and I don't want to criticize him too much because I think he's probably going to win NL Manager of the Year. But I just have my reservations about a guy who, or Adonis Medina in a close game. It's just like, why are we going to not these nobodies, but these lackluster arms in these big moments? And it's time and time again, and it's not costing the Mets too drastically. It's not like this is the 10th time it's happened. It's like, oh no, the 10th blown save for the Mets. It's not there, and everyone else has been pretty nails. But I just want to see Buck trust the big guns more than he does. Maybe it's because the season's getting to a close and everyone's tired. If that's it, sure. That's not the big a deal, but I'm just a little nervous come, playoff time if he was someone in too long.
In Buck, we trust, or at least I trust in Buck. I mean, it is questionable. You want to win every game. But some guys need some experience, and Ottavino's up there in age. Lugo's up there in age. I'm all right with it, because Adonis showed he can throw some good stuff like earlier in the year. Hasn't been there at all recently. But yeah, I'm cool. I'm cool with how Buck's been managing the bullpen.
All right, well, we can get to the actual questions now.
Yeah.
That Montes de Oca thing really, really rattled me. I don't know.
I remember that as I was looking at the sheet, and I was like, oh, I'm surprised it's not on there because that was definitely something it's definitely worth talking about. But I'm cool with these guys getting some experience. All right, moving on to questions. So we already talked about Bassett's post-game comments. This is something that I think could be pretty important, especially with this bottom of the lineup starting to produce a little bit more. We have some more injuries and some guys coming back. Who do you guys think is the Mets XFactor going down the stretch? Who on this team who, is a little under the radar, you think is going to perform the best and really help us win that division and keep the Braves off our tail?
Ooh. You go ahead, Jimmy.
I want to say Francisco Lindor. I want to say Pete Alonso. As much as I want to say those two, I'm going to go with Mark Hanna. Because I think...
I love Mark Hanna.
Okay.
With the way... When he's on, this Mets offense is so deep. Because the way he's hit this year has been insane. I think he's batting 272 right now. Yeah, he's batting 272, 369 on-base percentage. And he had a point in the middle of the summer, even right now, he's just killing the baseball. So, and now we're hopefully heading into now we're in a division race right now, and we're going to be trying to get to that postseason. And in the middle of this division race, we're going to need every single guy top to bottom of the lineup. And when Mark Hanna's in there after Vogelback and McNeil, and you have a guy like Mark Hanna still in the bottom of that lineup producing like he's been producing, I think it just adds the depth that this Mets lineup needs, and they've needed for so long, and now they finally have it this year. And that's why I'm going to say Mark Hanna because how can you not? He's just so clutch.
He had a great series against the Dodgers. Great series.
I'm going to go with Eduardo Escobar.
Yes. Someone said it. Let's go.
So, like Jimmy was saying, the Mets have a lot of depth. We have our top two studs in Lindor and Alonso, even though Lindor's been pretty shaky as of late. But when you look at where the Mets are, Escobar is primarily in the 7th, the 8th, or 6th hole. He's really a bottom of the order bat. And for so long, it was like, oh, automatic at Escobar. He was very, very poor, and he wasn't really coming in clutch. And if he did, it didn't really matter. And that was a big concern to the point that Brett Brady did get called up, not just because Escobar was hurt, but because he wasn't playing well. And we had a conversation on this very show of like, hey, is Escobar even be starting come playoffs? He's splitting reps with Guillorme, all of that stuff. But he's been tearing it up since he came off the IL. This is just his slash line since he's coming off the IL. 394, 432, 697, 1.129 OPS. He has been a machine. And why he's the X factor to me is because, we've been talking about how third base has been such a dreadful position for the Mets this whole year. And if we don't have to worry about that anymore, that's not just a plus in terms of like roster management of like, oh man, do we put Guillorme or Beatty out there or anything like that? It's just an added bonus of like, no, Escobar's there every single day. He's a switch hitter now, or he's always been a switch hitter. But if you can have that indicator of a switch hitter that can play well on both sides of the bat, the way he's played as of late, that's huge. Not to mention that the bottom of the order is so porous, you would do anything for a guy who hits like that, And it's no longer, Escobar, McCann, Naquin, or whoever else you want there in the 9-hole. It's just like it makes this lineup so much better to the point where you are like the Dodgers, you are like the Braves, where there's not a hitter in every single lineup where you're like, man, that guy's good. So I'm trusting Escobar here. You said he wanted to make us proud. Please do it. I really like you too. So that's my pick.
Yeah, I got really excited because I was gonna say Eduardo Escobar. I mean, you already said all the stats, but the last 11 games, he's really been playing super well. I think he's finally he found his swing. And he was we brought him in because he hit for actually a decent amount of power as a Brewer, and we kind of brought him in to add that to this lineup. And he just had a series in Pittsburgh where his whole career in Milwaukee, he raked in that park. Like, great history. And I think this is going to be the moment. Like, that's the series because he had like 3 hits last night, something like that. But he was just hitting the baseball really hard. He was, not only hitting infield singles, but he was getting towards, hit a home run or two and some key doubles. But I think this is going to be the moment for him where, it all really starts to click. Like they're saying last night with Pete, it takes one hit for some of these guys, and then boom, they go off. They slump for so long, one hit, everything changes for him. I think this is that moment for Escobar and him at the bottom of that lineup with Marcana. It's gonna be awesome. And I've kind of been having this feeling about him the whole year because he is such a quality player. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome to see him, contribute to this team down the stretch. I also kind of thought of Tyler McGill, just to see if he come back and bolster that bullpen a little bit. I thought it'd be a little interesting. And a part of me really wants to talk about Daniel Vogelback and Darren Ruff. But
don't do it, Jared. Don't.
Something is wrong with them. How can they improve going down? Because at least Vogelback at one point in the season, he was doing his job. He was protecting Pete Alonso. He was driving in Pete, making sure his at-bats don't go to waste. And now he just can't help it, but he hits in the shift every single time. And Darren Ruff has yet to register a home run since he was in San Francisco, making me actually miss J.D. Davis. So how can
J.D. Davis is like a 1,000 OPS since he's joined the Giants?
He's hitting 265.
That's painful. God damn it.
Right? Yeah, I don't know. He has 5 home runs. Darren Ruff is 0. He's 0 as a Met. So what's good with these guys? How can they improve? What are you guys looking at? Diagnose their issues right now.
Well, we're not doctors, but I'm going to try my best here. For Vogelbach, to me, he's lost command of that strike zone. When we first got him, it was like, oh boy, he's a chunky fella, but boy, great vision. Those are the best part of his game, not just his power bat. But as of late, I mean, I've got to look at the numbers here, and I'm going to them real quick, but it feels like he's been striking out a ton. In his last 5 games, it's, I think, 4 or 5 strikeouts. He just isn't having that same control where it was like, he's going to work the count, get at least a chance, get a pitch. There's no guarantee he's actually going to drive it to the park because his contact is so low, but his power is at the point where if he really gets a hit on it, it could be gone. So I just think he's kind of walked himself into a lot of bad counts just with the swinging and just taking the wrong pitches too, partly. He just doesn't seem like he's all the way there. As for Ruff, I don't think he can be fixed. I think he's just a bad player, and we traded for a bad player.
Yeah,
No.
I completely agree with that statement. I think Darren Ruff is just a bad player. You know, when we traded for him, I think you threw it in the chat. We were like, "Oh yeah, wow, we traded for a player with a -5 WAR." Like, great.
It's super. It's awesome.
Like, it's just, and like, it's what did the Mets expect when they traded for Daniel Vogelback and Darren Ruff? They're not X factors. They aren't. They're not going to make this Mets team that much better. They can help us. Vogelback has helped us. I have faith in Vogelback turning it around to some degree, but at the same time, I'm not so utterly confident. But I don't think we need to be, because we were just talking about Canna and Escobar. I feel like if it's going to come to a point now where Vogelback hits fifth in the lineup every time he's in the lineup. If he's hitting like he has been hitting his last 20 games, he's batting 154.
For not hitting.
You know, you got to move him down. You know, I think
the undesignated hitter.
Yeah, it's getting ridiculous now. And like, you know, I want to see more of Tyler Naquin. I want to see him get some more at bats. I want to see Buck trust him with that DH spot against righties for a little bit. You know, because Naquin, he had some timely hits. You know, I think he's only batting like 250 since he came over to the Mets. But when he has timely at bats and timely hits. And that's why I love Tyler Naquin. I want to see him get more at bats with the Mets. I want to see Buck trust him a little bit more. But I think if Vogelback continues to struggle, Buck can't be afraid to move him down and change this lineup up. You gotta move up Canna, you gotta move up Escobar, you gotta move up McNeil, because those three guys, they're just flat out better hitters than Vogelback, and they deserve to hit behind the top four in the lineup.
It was really disappointing to see in that Pirates series Vogelback like not have a home run in his old stadium. That was upsetting. Like, as a moment we didn't get to see. We do play the Pirates.
That's wait. So the game one loss wasn't the most disappointing moment. Was that Daniel Vogelback didn't hit a home run?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's why we lost, probably.
me too.
No.
Honestly, I was upset. We got drummed, but you know, it was 4-2. Like, Nimmo hit a great home run. Like, we were in that game, and then I don't know, that O'Neal Cruz guy and Reynolds, like, they're really good. Like, granted, they're the only two good players on that team, and Cruz is a little raw, but like, I don't know, like, if we go 2-1 in every series, or, you know, like, going down the line, like, we'll be fine. You know, like, we don't, like, sweeps are great, but like, I don't know, one loss like that, like, it's all right, you know. But it would have been nice to see Vogelback do that. I don't know what to do with Ruff, because only the best play I can even think of him having was a sacrifice fly.
I think his best contribution this year has been the innings that he's gave us on the mound.
Yeah, and relief.
I think it's the memes with his last name, honestly.
Ruff.
I wanted to ask a question real quick before we kind of like move on to the next one. There's a gun to your head, okay? We're in October. Brett Beatty is healthy. Who do you want to DH, Daniel Vogelbach or Brett Beatty?
I want Brett Beatty.
Jared?
He hits the ball harder.
I'm gonna go Vogelback.
Interesting. Okay. I don't have an answer here either, because I do think both have their pros and cons. I think, like Jared or Jimmy mentioned, Beatty can hit the piss out of the ball. But I do think if we're talking about the Mets' big weaknesses, as we have all year, it's power. And Vogelbach, as unsteady as he is, has at least supplied that. So
I would say Vogelback, just because he has the playoff experience.
True.
He lost the series to the Braves.
with who?
With
The
Milwaukee.
Brewers, yeah. He was talking about that on that
Oh.
podcast with KFC, the Mets podcast that Barstool does. And he was like, he said when he originally signed with Pittsburgh, that he knew that he was going to get traded before the trade deadline, because, you know, he knew he wasn't on par.
Well, I would hope so. I hope he's not like, all right, signing this deal with Pittsburgh. We're going to the World Series. Let's go.
He was like, please get me
tough
traded.
luck.
And then, you know, he produced, he bet on himself, and he was hyped. He said when he got traded to the Mets, he was like, all right, now I'm hungry to get back to the postseason. So,
Yeah,
I'll give him that.
Yeah, he described it like it's like a fever you get, because there's like no other baseball compared to playing in like a postseason game. Like, you never have as much fun when you're playing the postseason. we know a little bit. We don't play, but we watch, and it's pretty fun to watch. But we know a little bit of what that's like, just a little bit.
I don't know. I've had some LB the Show franchises where I get pretty deep in it. And I'm like, let's go.
Is this what it's like?
You're gonna be deep. If you're gonna make a metaverse version of the show, you're just gonna be lost for months. Like you're just not gonna come out of there.
Yeah, I'll be in the Matrix too deep. I'll just be like, no, I'm just with James McCann, virtual James McCann. We're like fighting, tag teaming dinosaurs.
Oh, I forgot to mention about James McCann really quick because it's actually a really nice thing. James McCann got nominated for the Roberto Clemente Award, which is an award given. Each team nominates a player for it, and it's a player who, through their character, who represents the game of baseball with good character, community service, and philanthropy and stuff like that. And McCann's cause is pretty cool. So like he had 2 twins, both were premature. And had to spend like months in like a newborn intensive care unit, just like sleeping in a hospital every night. So him and his wife, talk with families and help families out dealing with that same stuff. So James McCann, you finally got over 200 in your batting average, and you got
That's my king.
And you got nominated for awards. So the season's not all too bad, and it's kind of hard for us to be mad at you now because you're actually a good guy. So good job, James McCann.
I want to pop some James McCann numbers real quick because I got them. I'm gonna pop them like champagne. Since August 18th, James McCann is a 308 batting average, a 400 OBP, and a 385 slug for a 785 OPS.
He has a 308 batting average?
308 batting average since August 18th.
What?
Look it up right now. Go on reference, challenge me, okay?
I believe. Wow. Maybe he's the X Factor going down the stretch.
I'm just saying
if there's a time to pick it up, I'm sorry, I only have one little quick. If there's a time for James McCann to pick it up, it's right now.
I'm just gonna say, Queen Elizabeth, there's an open crown. I know a guy in Queens who might want a James McCann for a king.
Honestly, like it angers me so much when he like will swing at a slider.
Oh.
And he like flings the bat out with one hand. It's like obviously the hardest thing to do in sports is hit baseball. So I'm being like, I have no idea what it's like, but like, come on, dude.
Jimmy, can you just double check me before I sound insane with this whole like get James?
No,
McCann,
yeah,
like,
I looked it up on StatMoves. James McCann in his last 10 games since August 18th is batting 308, 8 hits, 5 runs scored. Yeah, he's been no RBIs in those 10 games, but
that's my catcher.
Yeah, that's what we just need him to do. Pass the baton. That's all he needs to get that mentality.
He does. He's got to stop swinging for power, or whatever he swings for. I don't know. It's like the most frustrating thing all season. Which is honestly, I'm glad it's the most frustrating thing because we've been through a lot worse.
Are you guys confident though that going into this race that we are in right now with the Braves? Are you guys confident in James McCann that he can not necessarily go back to where he was with the Chicago White Sox, but maybe better than what he's been with the Mets, and maybe this is sustainable?
I mean, objectively, if I'm going to take the James McCann hat off, probably not.
Keep it on.
I think he's okay. All right. Well, you guys are talking about future World Series MVP James McCann right now. I want you to put some respect on his name. All right, like,
dude, it could happen. We saw Daniel Murphy not out of nowhere, but
father of two children, and one is the Atlanta Braves. You'll see.
All he needs, though, McCann, if he wants the whole entire Mets fandom to like completely change their viewpoint on James McCann's like so far his stint with the Mets, if he goes out there and he lights it up in a postseason series against the Atlanta Braves,
jersey retired.
Yep,
that's all it takes.
Daniel Murphy at Old Timers Day, like the guy had like hit 7 home runs the whole year. It's on like some of the most mediocre teams we've ever had, and goes on one little run. He's a legend. Like it's if you're good in New York, be good anywhere. I don't know. I would love to see James do that. I don't know. I'm still a Nino stan. I'm still waiting for Nito's home run. He's got to go off at some point.
It ain't happening, man. James is here to stay. McCann. Yes, we McCann. All right.
Yes, we McCann. That'd be a good T-shirt if everyone make T-shirts for the show.
Should call the Mets.
Yes, we McCann.
Free shirt Friday.
But it'd be tough because it's like, guess when McCann hit 201? Like,
You know what though? We could start using that though. The last 10 games, Roberto Clemente is picking it up.
It's things can only go up for him because it's been so bad the whole year.
Mm-hmm, that's true. All
right.
See, I'm glad I'm bringing you guys to James McCann Island. It's great here.
it's a nice time.
We have to accept him now. We have no other choice. But I'm happy with the way he's been producing. I'm definitely happy to see that. And if he keeps hitting like this, though, I don't want to see Nito in the lineup. Keep riding the hot hand.
All right. Now we got about 5 minutes left of another great show. Let's get into some upcoming predictions and talk a little bit about the series we got coming up with the Marlins. Honestly, I was very relieved that we had a day off today because it's just like I don't have to watch. I don't have to get all worked up. Be a really good break going in tomorrow, and we got a huge divisional series against the Marlins. I don't know. What are you guys' expectations, predictions?
I want to say one thing off the top. Thank God they're like 6:40 start times. Just wonderful stuff from Miami. Thank you for that.
We got a 140 on Sunday too, which no one's gonna watch.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna be watching. I'll be honest with you.
I like the 6:40 start time too. Who's pitching tomorrow for the Mets? Just because it still doesn't list it for us.
I believe it's gonna be Peterson. Is my guess.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the Mets then tomorrow. I'm gonna be confident with the Mets going tomorrow with Peterson. And I like Carrasco on Saturday, so I'll take that.
Walker
too.
Sunday. Yeah.
Walker Sunday. Yeah, I'll take him. So I'll take the Mets sweep for the Marlins, and then when we go into the Cubs series, that lines up to Grom will hopefully pitch that series. I'm gonna go for the next 6 games. I'm gonna go 5-1. I think they're gonna drop one to the Cubs.
Okay. Wow.
Right.
Hot takes Nolan here.
Yeah, let's get Bayless wannabe. I think the Marlins haven't won a game since I think August 23rd.
My birthday, really?
If I'm looking at this, yeah, they have not won a game since August 23rd. So they're due.
That's not. No way.
They're up 2-0 right now on the Phillies in the top of the third. But yeah, no, they have not won a game since August 23rd, and that's
wow.
And they beat the A's.
Oh my God, you're right. Oh wait, no, August 27th.
No, they didn't. Really? 27th?
They beat the Dodgers August 27th.
Yeah, they beat the Dodgers. So they've not won. Yeah, so they've not won since then. Still a long time. Got clobbered by the Rays, clobbered by the Braves. Hopefully they win against Philly tonight, so they don't take one away from us because they're a good team. I think Alcantara is pitching today. Yes, he is pitching today, so we won't see Sandy, so that's great for us. I'm gonna go with a sweep here. We don't have to see Sandy, best pitcher in baseball, Cy Young winner most likely. And the Marlins cause us fits most years, but this year I thought we've handled them pretty well. So
I think
broomsticks.
I think one of Carrasco or Walker lose the game. I'm not feeling great about those two guys down the stretch. Walker especially. His games where it's like, oh, he gutted it out in the first half. They're not there anymore. And I think it's more he's coming back to the mean of what he should have been this entire season. Not to discredit him or his success and everything like that from the first half, but he just isn't a good second half pitcher. And that's okay. It just is what it is. But I have my doubts about that. So I think they at least lose a game. I think Luzardo and Cabrera probably shouldn't be that much of a challenge, especially, with Peterson on the bump Friday. So I feel okay. If if we lose, yikes. But at least the Cubs are around the bend, and the Cubs, they're respectable, as you recall, if we played them towards the end of the All-Star break or before the All-Star break. So I don't know. It's not the easiest slate because the Marlins always play us off of Miami, and the Cubs have already shown that they can beat us. So I wouldn't pencil us in for a ticket to paradise.
So no ticket to James McCann Island.
Well, I'm always there. I can't leave. It's like Hotel California.
You're trapped there. Yeah, you're trapped. Once you decide to become a James McCann fan, you can't go back.
I mean, I stab with my steely knife, but I just can't kill the beast.
Honestly, great reference, and I think that might be good enough to end the show. So thanks for tuning in. Catch us on YouTube. Catch us on Twitter. What else are we on? Are we on TikTok? Are we on?
No, but we could get a TikTok going.
I don't think we have to. I don't know.
We'll talk about it. But we're definitely on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter. So follow us there. And tune in next week. And let's go Mets.
James McCann out.
See you guys.